Hello, this is Mish, and welcome back to another review. Once again, looking at WestWorld. This time, it's Season 1, Episode 3. The title is called The Stray. So before I get started, if you've not watched the episode, go and watch it, as this is going to have many spoilers. This was really a jam-packed episode, so it's going to be quite hard to cover in a good amount of time. So I'll break it down into the simple things to start with, then at the end I'll just go over some things I noted, some, I guess, my conspiracies and thoughts at the towards the end. So let's start with Elsie and Stubbs. So we start seeing Elsie, and she is investigating Walter some more, and she shouldn't be. They've been told to move on, but she's got Walter. So he was the host that went crazy and killed multiple people, drinking all the milk. It was quite crazy, and he had made a ritual of bodies as well, if you remember, a couple of episodes ago. So she's still investigating that, and what she's found, she watched the, I guess, history of it, and Walter killed 6 people. But the thing is, whilst that's not that amazing, the thing is he only killed the people that had killed him previously. So he's remembering multiple instances, multiple history, and they always say that they're wiping the memories. So something's going wrong there. And once again, we're getting that repeated scenario of memory coming back. Also, another intriguing part here, you can see him talking to somebody. So he's talking to, something's talking to him and he's talking back, but he's struggling to hear them. And we find out it's something called Arnold. And Walter wasn't the only person that, spoke to or was spoken to by Arnold. But Dolores' father, so Abernathy, Peter Abernathy, he was speaking with Arnold, I believe, as well. So there's a weird coincidence there, and it's not a coincidence, is it? So this, I guess, when Bernard heard about that, he's obviously there needs to investigate this more. So he brings it up with Ford. But anyway, in that situation, so Elsie is talking to Bernard about this situation, and they see that someone's gone missing. The host has run off. So that's the whole point. The stray is the host that's run off into the desert. So we get Elsie and Stubbs going off to find the host. This is throughout the period of the whole episode, obviously. So they find the location where the host should be, where his story is. He should be at a campfire with other people, and he's run off, and the campfire can't progress because they need him to use the axe. No one else is programmed to use the axe, and that's, safeguarding from Teresa. So the Stubbs and Teresa are obviously kind of the same team. They're working with the board as opposed to working with the developer side of things. So they've kind of locked down who can use weaponry, because I think everyone's a bit on edge. So yeah, they go into the tent and see that the host is actually a wood carver. And they find a piece of wood, one of his carvings, and it has a weird scratching on the back. And Stubbs mentions it's Orion. And then I guess the whole point is, well, that star system, how would this person know about that star system? So once again, a memory, a weird implant there, something going on. Anyway, they keep going, and they find the host. And he's fallen down a crevasse. They go to get him. I guess all they need is the circuitry in his brain. So they try and cut off his head, and he wakes up even though he was asleep. Goes nuts, breaks out. You think he's going to kill Elsie, but he ends up killing himself with a massive rock. So we've got multiple things going on there. We've got him waking up from sleep even though he's been told to sleep. We've got him, violence against Stubbs. So are we saying that Stubbs may be a host as opposed to a guest? That was something I thought, because he said something else. I'll go into that more a bit later. But yeah, so that was an interesting situation. But that's really kind of what Elsie and Stubbs were up to. So let's talk about William. He didn't do a lot, but still, there's a main part coming for that guy, him and Logan. So we find out that, William kind of on the main street. If you don't remember William by name, it's a guy that just arrived last episode. The 2 guys on the train, William and Logan. And so they arrive in the main street, and William kind of gets a taste for violence. So he ends up saving one of the brothel workers, and then he kind of sees that he sees Logan, and they want to go on a manhunt. Well, Logan didn't. He just wants to stay and get up to his normal debauchery. But we learned a bit more backstory that William is marrying Logan's sister. So that's where the connection is between those two, because they don't seem to like each other at all. So that kind of makes sense. And then we see later on that Dolores actually runs into William. But I'll get into more about that when we start talking about Dolores. So now let's talk about Ford and him starting to implement his new story. So last episode we saw that Ford didn't like the story that Lee pitched. So we know that he's making his own story. And we've seen that kind of buried church possibly, or the weird steeple. I'm not sure what that's all about. But we see that, Ford's taken over the narrative. So, and it's making the board uneasy as well. So he's thrown, I guess there's a whole bunch of storylines, and he's ruining a whole bunch of them to add his new story, making a lot of people on edge. One of the people he's really putting into that is Teddy. So he gets a big part in this story. So the story at the moment seems to be around this character called Wyatt. So he and Teddy used to be in the army, and they went off, they were working together, and then Wyatt went off by himself. He was a sergeant. He disappeared and came back with strange ideas. Now these ideas, I guess it's more saying that this land isn't for the natives, it isn't for us, it's for something that we don't know what it is yet. So we're not sure where that is all about, but it kind of suggests that maybe he's just gone crazy. Well, we're not sure. So, and Wyatt's soldiers, Wyatt's men that he's hiring to help him, are all wearing these weird masks and weird costumes. So the point is that, all these people have to help and get rid of Wyatt. So it's, the storyline at the moment, it looks very basic, but there's obviously going to be more twists and turns in there. And onto, the main other arc that we had, which was Bernard investigating, the origins of the hallucinations, or the madness, the voices, stuff like that. So we see him talking to Dolores. He even hands her a Alice in Wonderland book, and she, he makes her read a couple lines, and it's all about something changing in the night, something changing, something evolving. So we get a weird conversation with Bernard, and I've seen people say that Bernard is, an evil character. I don't think he is. I just think he's doing something. I'll get into that in a second, but let's just go over what else happened with Dolores and Bernard. So Dolores had multiple flashbacks again. It was about that pistol that she dug up last episode. So she, at one point, she found the pistol in her top drawer, and she kind of picked it up, had a flashback of the man in black. Then the pistol was gone. So are we saying that was a hallucination, or that was was it there, then did someone take it away? Was that just shown to her by a developer or an admin, whatever you want to call them? So that was weird. Then I guess another Dolores scene, which I found really fascinating, was a conversation between her and Teddy when she was saying, "Let's leave. I want to go somewhere else." And the acting was fantastic, because her acting, you could almost see that she wasn't adhering to her code. The way she was saying it, it was really questioning Teddy's code, because Teddy kind of kept going back to the same points, and she was trying to question him and push him. It was a really amazing scene, because the subtlety with that part, I was really impressed with that. So for me, I found that Dolores broke her code, and she knew the situation that she was in is not right, and they want to get out of there, and she just couldn't convince Teddy to break his code. It was a fascinating scene. I really liked it. So we've got other things going on with Bernard and Dolores. So Bernard, we learn about his son a little bit. I'll go into that scene a lot more in a moment, but Dolores is asking about his son, and we see a conversation with Bernard and Ford. Ford saying, your son is dead. I don't want this affecting what's going on here. Then we see a conversation with Bernard, and I guess in essence it's Skype. It's Skype on a fancy monitor, right? And it's talking to his wife. So we learn more backstory about Bernard, and once again, an amazing scene, really touching. Really thought the acting was really good, and so we learned that his son passed away, and that for me is the big key to that character. So we kind of go back to Dolores there, and a conversation which seems to be inspired by the reminder about Bernard's son. And Bernard saying, wipe your code. I don't want anyone knowing what's been going on. We've been having these conversations, and it seems that he's kind of getting Dolores to evolve or change, or trying to get that consciousness. And then all of a sudden he said, no, I don't want to. Just keep going. So that was interesting too, how he kind of flip-flopped between his decision. And then once again, Dolores was back in the world, and this was a bit of a crazy scene where she must have planted the gun, or perhaps once again someone's given her that gun. Maybe an admin can put an item in the world, or maybe someone planted it there because they knew she was going to be there, or maybe she did it herself, and then she managed to shoot somebody. And she tried to shoot an inanimate object before, and she couldn't pull a trigger, so she's broken the code again. And then something crazy happened. It wasn't that obvious. It was quite subtle if you kind of weren't paying 100% attention. But yeah, she ran out of the barn, her mother was shot, and then she was shot. But then we kind of saw, did she rewind time, or did she have a premonition? So she's starting to, I don't know, I want to almost say that understanding the code, therefore she can control time, or she has a power like that, or she can see what's going to happen. So that is a fascinating situation going on there. But anyway, she manages to dodge, dying, and runs off. And that's where she kind of meets up with William and Logan in the middle of the night at the fire. So now let's talk about Ford's conversation with Bernard. And this was getting pretty interesting. So this complicated scene, so obviously I'm going to kind of skip over it and try and pick and choose the things that I found interesting about it. So we had, the start of the conversation that Bernard was saying, I think that we've made a mistake. We've not found the issue. We've treated the symptom, not the cause, so not the disease. And then he revealed to Ford that the hosts are talking and being spoken to by Arnold. I don't know what Arnold is. Then Ford kind of says, well, I think Bernard then pushes Ford more, saying, tell me what the whole story is. So he does. He lets out a bit more information. Not a lot, but just, I guess, a bit more snippets here and there. So we learn that Arnold was Ford's partner, and they made the park together initially. So they worked together for 3 years with a whole bunch of engineers designing the hosts. And we learned that Arnold really concentrated on the consciousness. So they got the hosts up to the point where they could beat the Turing test. Now, if you don't know what the Turing test is, that's a test designed to test to see if you can distinguish between humans and AI. So they managed to actually beat that test. So they were kind of going to the point where they can think for themselves. I believe from a quick look up that only in obviously in real life, in our simulation, the Turing test has only been beaten once by AI. So that's kind of where the point is now, that these guys developed hosts that could beat their Turing test. So that's pretty impressive in itself. And okay, so I guess once again, Arnold concentrated on that consciousness. So he really pushed for that, and I think we had a divergence of Ford and Arnold on where they wanted to go. So we had Arnold trying to implement the bisimural mind, I think it's called. So what that is I guess a theory that humans, I don't know if it's saying consciousness or humans even to this point, that there's a voice which controls the human brain. So, I mean, for me, that's quite a new thing I've never heard about before, so I'm going to look into that because I find that stuff really interesting. But yeah, so they're saying that that Arnold wanted to implement that. So he wanted to have an overall voice talking to them, and that they could use that as a narrative, I guess as a monologue going forward. So almost like a voice of the gods. And they said the output from that was some of the hosts just went nuts because they did hear the voice of God. And Ford was also saying the last thing you want is actually to have the hosts have a consciousness. So that was thrown out. And I guess that's the whole divergence between those two characters and where the park was going to go. So I think the whole reason why Arnold was going down that way because of his personal issues, whereas Ford was actually seeing it as a money-making venture. So we also learned that, I guess because of Arnold's personal issues, he put himself all into the park, and he may have gone crazy, and we think that, I guess he's killed himself at the moment. My feeling is he probably didn't. He probably was taken out intentionally, but anyway, that's one of my crazy theories. So that whole scene, whilst it's really good to see all that, I guess, back history, get more information, that whole situation with Arnold is paralleling with Bernard. So we got a parallel between Bernard and Arnold, and Ford already picks it up because just before the conversation finishes, he says, don't look into these hosts anymore because there's nothing there to see. And he kind of gives them a warning, and that's where we find out as well that Bernard's son died. So yeah, that was, I guess, where, and then Bernard went off and spoke to Dolores. So fascinating conversation and really good episode. So I guess the few things that I picked up on around what's going on here. So staying in that scene of Bernard and Ford, my thoughts, I guess I read some articles, people saying that they think Bernard is trying to, upset everything and bring everything down. He's putting evil code into the hosts. I don't think so. For me, I think from that scene, he is trying to get consciousness into these creatures, just like Arnold was doing. He's looking for a way to get them to evolve, and my assumption would be so that he could bring back his son. So that if he could do that, if he could make consciousness, then he could, I guess, design his son and possibly bring his son back. Because you could see that he's still deeply scarred by obviously losing his son, as you would be. So that's my kind of feeling around Bernard's intentions at the moment, is that's where he's going. That's his driving force. And that will kind of make sense as to why he's letting things run, why he's trying to encourage the hosts to think for themselves, have a consciousness. Then you can, if you can make consciousness, then what's going to stop you? So what else did I see in this episode? Well, a few times I paused it on cameras. You can see, if you watched previous reviews of mine, I mentioned the cameras for me were a giveaway that this is a simulation. The cameras are, you don't see any cameras. There's no, they're in impossible angles where hosts and guests would see them. And whilst I still think that's true, you could argue against that now, because if you pause, I guess if you look at some of the pictures I've put up, and look, if you want to pause the TV show when it's going, when people look at those tablets, you can see they're actually labeled. Like one of them was labeled camera 27. When they go outside and they're looking at massive things, they're saying it's a satellite. Now, for me, that's still a bit far-fetched. I think, if anything, they're just placeholders in a way that it makes more sense that it's, if you wanted to convince the guests or the hosts or the developers of the situation, you would put that line there. You wouldn't just be ambiguous about it. So for me, I still think that the cameras are a bit of a giveaway that this is a simulation. But I guess, once again, you could argue that against it now. And what else happened here? One line which interested me was, I guess it was between Elsie and Stubbs, when Stubbs mentioned, the piece of wood you're holding is actually the star system, or the Orion system. And kind of, Elsie was like, well, what the hell? How did you know that? And Stubbs mentioned, maybe it's in my backstory. And I think that is a bit of a hint, because I kind of get the feeling that he might be a host, or maybe that's the point, that they're all hosts. But once again, that's kind of saying, is it a simulation? Are they all hosts? What's going on? But also add on top of that the host, the one that was stuck down, the stray that got stuck down the crevasse, he gave Stubbs a couple of punches. So already he's, that's violence against a guest, which they still seem to not be able to do. But that was definitely, how far does the violence against the guest go? They say they can't be hurt, and he was hurt. So in essence, that they broke the code. But yeah, that's a bit tricky. All in all, I thought it was a really good episode. It didn't really answer many questions. It's given us more backstory, a bit of information about stuff, but still many questions unanswered. The situation, what's going on. I can tell you exactly what the voice of Arnold is saying as well, and they completely got it wrong. Arnold would never say drink the milk. The milk is for babies, you drink the beer. So if you got to this point in the video, put a comment below of your favorite Arnie quote. I want to see actually how many people actually get to the end of the video. So that was probably my favorite Arnie quote. So anyway, I'll leave the video here. I hope you enjoyed this review, as this TV show is proving to be pretty fascinating. Really enjoying kind of thinking outside the box, trying to figure this stuff out. I hope you're enjoying these videos. Let me know your thoughts on my video, and also on the WestWorld itself. Your thoughts about, is it a simulation? You know, do you think I'm on the right track? Do you think I'm not on the right track? And once again, put your Arnie quote down below. If you get to this point of the video, that'd be awesome. Just interested to see, because that's a Easter egg word, right? So put your quote, your favorite Arnie quote below. So I'll leave the video here. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, and subscribe for future content from myself, once again covering WestWorld and The Strain, and possibly some more stuff in the future. So until next time, this is Mesh, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.